Oh my gosh, we are live. Holy cow. I apologize for the 5 minute delay on starting here. It was goofy to set up. I had to switch accounts, no big deal. Uh, oh my gosh, welcome to our series four or episode four of this four-part free GovCon training series. Oh my gosh, my special guest, Randall Wimmer, who won $2 billion in government contracts is yeah it, I'm not sure how to say it, but I've been twisting Randy's arm for a while to provide some of this starting the initial kind of information for free, something we can broadcast, something we can share, like to encourage people. I'm a boxing coach, so I'm biased here, but or this is how I'm perceiving it, encouraging people to get into the ring, right? Just to
Yeah,
start. It's so hard. Oh,
but that's life in general. It's just like it kind of reminds me getting into the ring is like getting into the arena. If you haven't read or heard Teddy Roosevelt's "Man in the Arena" excerpt, oh man, it is the most powerful piece of prose that any aspiring entrepreneur or any person in reality, but especially for entrepreneurs, can read. And what Teddy Roosevelt does is he describes a guy, who climbs into the arena, gets knocked down, gets up with his face marred with blood and sweat and dirt, and just keeps on getting up. And, you know, that is the person, whether he stands or falls, wins or loses, succeeds or fails, he did so greatly. And he's achieved something that very, very few people have ever achieved, and that's stepping into the arena. That is the hardest thing in the world. And if you do anything in life, just step into the arena. That's the one thing that I encourage everybody to do. And stand or fall, man, you're going to be great because you've dared greatly.
oh my gosh. I believe high level, what you're just describing, that's the point. That's the origin story. That is why we are doing this, because it's scary. Like,
Oh, it really is. And you know what, though? I think what we do as people is we create these mental obstacles and we make things
good call.
out to be so much more difficult than what they really are. And I I I have this trick that if you bake in failure as part of your success strategy, where you're saying, hey, okay, I'll launch and fail and launch and fail. And nobody, you don't intend to launch and fail, but if you launch and if you do fail, you don't launch, you don't mark it up as a failure. What you do is you mark that up as a learning opportunity. Now I know what I need to know. And that's what happened with me. I tell people that it wasn't until I relaunched my first company that's with two re's in it, relaunch. That's my third attempt at launching my first company, that took me those tries to get it right. And had I not launched and failed and not relaunched and failed, I never would have had success on the third time. And the third time, trust me when I say this, was the charm. It really was. But I never would have gotten there unless I'd have thrown my hat in the ring, unless I would have stepped into the arena, got knocked down a few times, and got back up. One mistake is infinitely more powerful than 1,000 hours of trying to avoid the mistake. Because if you go in there and you make the mistake, buddy, that is a hard-learned lesson that you will never forget, and you will learn it, and you will overcome it, and you'll never have it again. So, or you can spend thousands of hours trying to, avoid making that mistake, and you'll never get it. You'll never figure out what you need to do because you don't know what you don't know. Trying and failing gives you the knowledge of what you don't know. It was the whole reason why I succeeded, on my third attempt, because I would try it, and then I realized, like, holy shit, I don't know how to do any of this. And then what I would do is I would learn from that. I would say, okay, now I got a to-do list. This is my learning to-do list. I got to learn how to do this. I got to learn how to do this. And I went through there, and it was like a checklist. So by failing, what you do is you demystify one of the most terrifying things in the world, and that's launching a company. You just got to try, you got to fail, and then you create a checklist from your failure.
Oh my gosh, I picture this as fast iteration, and you and I have talked
Yeah.
about this a few times, and that's SpaceX's. That's the origin to their current success. Now with Elon, nothing political or whatnot, but now Elon in the government doing what he's doing, and we are prescribing to our viewers, to anybody that's willing, able to stand up, and grab this torch and run with it. We're prescribing fast iteration to them, and I'm hoping.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can I?
Yes, sir.
I'm at that age right now, Jonathan. If I don't blurt things out, I forget it.
Let it ride. I like it.
Yeah. So I have to share this story. It's called failing fast. That's a pretty common business concept right now, to fail fast. But I'd never heard of it before, and I'm at a meeting. I've got my fledgling little company out there, and I am meeting with a partner at Deloitte. I am like ecstatic, like, oh my gosh, if I can land, Deloitte as a partner, if they can see me as a trusted small business, then I am off, then I'm off to the races. Hey, did my camera just die?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Oh, nope, that's not the camera I want.
But I do like. It looks good.
You like that one, huh? Here,
Yeah.
let me just fix that.
Fancy.
Yeah. So technical difficulties all over the place today, huh?
No worries. No worries. Let it ride. Hey,
Hey,
fast iteration. We're gonna do it anyway.
Hey, I like that. I like that, man. We are living it right now, aren't we?
Yes,
So,
sir.
stop cam, boom. Let's just remove, edit, stop my cam. Okay, well, we'll just go with this one right here. And so I'm at Deloitte's corporate office. I'm talking with a partner, and she said something like, "Oh, well, we try to fail fast," and I laughed. I thought it was a joke. Jonathan, I'm not joking. I thought it was literally a joke when she says, "Oh yeah, we go in there and we have a motto of failing or failing fast. That's our mantra." I'm thinking like, really? Like nobody wants to fail fast. And then she was serious, and then she kept on going. And this is what she said. She says, "I want to get in there and I want to create a solution as quickly as possible and assume it's wrong and then that way we immediately start making it better, improving it." And then when I got a little bit older, a little bit wiser, I realized that was a brilliant strategy. Why? Because if you're not allowed to fail, what you're going to do is you're going to make that first attempt a successful attempt, and you're going to be putting lipstick on a lot of pigs. And I do mean a lot of pigs. So, because if you can't fail, it won't. And you're going to dress it up as if it's a solution, the best solution, when it's not. So you can't learn from anything that you've done. What a horrible thing. What a horrible philosophy when you can't learn and improve things. If you got to make that first attempt work. And then the second thing, it completely eliminated the stigma of failure. If you're not failing, you're not trying. It really comes down to that. If you're not failing, you're not trying. And so her philosophy was dead on, and I thought, like, wow, that is brilliant what she's saying. So that's the strategy that I recommend everybody implement. You will never ever get started if you wait until you feel like you know enough to launch a company. Because I've been an entrepreneur for over 2 decades, pushing a quarter of a century. And you know what though? I'm completely ill prepared to launch any company, even though I've been doing it for over 2 decades. Because you'll never know enough. You'll never know enough. Even if you did know enough, 2 years ago, things have changed so much now. The markets have changed. You've changed. Everything's changed so much that you no longer know enough. So if I waited until I knew enough, I never would have launched a single company. So you just got to do it. You just got to step into the arena. You got to get some blood, sweat, tears, dirt on your face. And all you got to do is just get up one more time, then you're knocked down, and you will be successful, especially in the federal government contracting industry. Why? Because federal government contracting, once you learn how to play the game, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. There's no guessing in federal government contracting. Most entrepreneurs fail because they guess what the market is willing and wanting to buy. There's no guessing in federal government contracting. Why? Because there's something called the budget, which is basically a law that mandates what every government agency is going to buy. And then they break that mandate, that budget, into greater details by releasing requests for proposals that tell you exactly what it is that they want. All you got to do is write a proposal that comes closest to meeting that requirement, and you win. It's like playing pin the tail on the donkey. It's like you write a proposal, that's your tail, and you put your tail in the closest spot to the donkey's ass. And here's the good thing about it. There's about 15,000, donkeys walking around at any given time. There's 15,000, government solicitations in various stages at any given time. You just got to pick the solicitation, the donkey that's closest to you to put your tail on it. It's the best industry in the world, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking never split the difference right now. The Chris Voss, the negotiation. Why do you think people are scared to get into government contracting? And that's measured from all the reasons that you just described. Like, it's logical. It makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Well, and why for calling out the pain points? Like, why now from where you're at, looking backwards, why do you think why does this problem exist in the first place? Right?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. And because I've thought a lot about this. When I decided I was going to launch a federal government contracting company, I thought, you know what, I'll just go get an MBA that specializes in federal government contracting. So I looked around. And now this is way back in 2003. So this is over 2 decades ago, and still nothing has changed. Not a damn thing has changed. I could not find a single top-tier MBA program, or any MBA program, as a matter of fact, that specialized in the world's largest customer, the U.S. federal government. There are no close seconds. There's not a single company or industry or country that comes close to spending what the U.S. federal government does. It's got $1 trillion budgets, but yet there's not a single MBA program that specializes in it. If you want to get in the automotive industry, there's MBA programs that specialize in that. If you want to get in the hospitality industry, there's MBA programs that specialize in that. If you want to get in sports entertainment, there's all kinds of MBA programs for those. Not a single one. So the total lack of training is and educational opportunities is a big reason. Nobody knows how to do it. Now, here's the deal. There's only about that much difference between launching a federal government contracting company and launching any other company, about that much. But that little bit of difference right here is actually to your competitive advantage. Why? Because that little bit of extra knowledge that you need to know to be a federal government contracting company owner eliminates 95% of your competitive landscape. What do I mean by that? That means if you're an IT company and you wanted to win that big Walmart, IT enterprise contract, you'd be competing against everybody does that. Palo Alto Networks, IBM, you name it, and you got people, competing for that. Now, if you decide that you want to support, Naval Sea Systems Command, which is just as big as Walmart, the opportunities, now you've eliminated 95% of the U.S. companies that choose not to pursue federal government contracts. Think about that. 95% of U.S. companies choose not to pursue federal government contracts. So there's all those competitors that are gone. But it gets even better than that. As a small business, you don't have to compete against Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, IT, IBM. You don't have to compete against those. Why? Because of the small business set-aside program, Jonathan. It is a game changer. You are competing only against companies like yourself, new and small businesses. So that little bit of knowledge that you need in the federal government marketplace, that is learning that little bit of knowledge, which is hard, because there are no MBA programs that are out, that can do that. The training providers that do it, that are well known and branded, in the federal government contracting industry, they do it, but they only do it for companies that have very, very, very deep pockets. For example, if Northrop Grumman is bidding on a multi-billion-dollar bid effort, they're going to bring in a company that can teach them how to write winning proposals and to kind of walk them through it and guide them and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to pay millions of dollars for that service. So if you're a small business, you don't have millions of dollars just, sitting around to have somebody come in and train you how to be successful in this industry. That is the whole reason why I launched Government Contracting Academy, because there is a massive void, and I'm talking about a massive void in the marketplace, to provide training and resources for small businesses. If you have really deep pockets, you don't need it. You're already successful, or you can pay, these people to do it. But if you're a small business, you can't. So that's the market. That's the market that I wanted to help out. And so that's why I launched Government Contracting Academy in 2020. But getting back to what you said, the fear is because of a lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge. There's no way to learn it. No way to learn it. It's word of mouth almost. That's the way I learned it. So I launched my first company in 2003. Failed miserably. Didn't even know how to get started. I always tell people I crashed and burned, but that's a lie, because you have to have movement to crash. You can't be, I was just sitting there, immobile. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. Like, oh, geez, I don't know. Hey, I don't even know how. If somebody wanted to give me a contract, just gift me a contract. If the subcontracting fairy came up to me, hit me with a wand and says, Randy, we want to give your company a subcontract. What are your rates? Well, you have to show your rate build up. You can't make up a number in federal government contract. You just can't do that. The government, they don't allow that. Even when you're a subcontractor, you've got to justify your rates, because the government doesn't want to be fleeced. So you got to justify it. And I didn't even know how to come up with a price. You know what I mean? And a mentor of mine, he called me out, because I said, hey, I'm launching this company. I've got this company on the side. And he says, well, Randy, if I wanted to give you a contract, could you even take it? Now he says, now think about it. Could you even take it? And I thought about it. I thought, God, I don't even know how to take a contract. I couldn't even take a gift. So it doesn't matter if the subcontracting fairy, came up and hit me with her wand. Hell, I couldn't even accept her gift. So that's the biggest obstacle. But once you overcome that much knowledge, that knowledge gap of that much, that's different than other industries, you have eliminated 95% of your competitors. It's like I said, and that's what I tell people. You want to find those barriers to market entry that you overcome, that the vast majority of your competitors can't. And that's what federal government contracting is. You're overcoming that much of a knowledge gap that other people aren't willing to invest in learning. And you are eliminating 95%.
Oh my gosh, that's I'm skewed towards this perception, human psychology kind of stuff, but that speaks to one of those variables, reframing the complication, the complexities from being bad too much to be a good thing because it's too much. It's filtering out the vast majority. Or I'm trying to regurgitate something.
No. Yeah, but it's not too hard. It's just different. And people don't know where to find how to learn. They don't know how to learn that tiny little bit of additional information that they need. And I didn't know how to do it. That's why it took me 8 years to figure out that much knowledge that year. And I had to do it, the hard way. I did it by, finding jobs where I felt like I could learn that information, and I got it through on-the-job training. And that was it. That much knowledge kept me from being successful for 8 years. Now, once I learned it, once I really learned it, I really learned it in 2013. So from 2013 to 2016, I won nearly $400 million in prime contracts as a small business owner.
What was that number? Could you say that again?
Yeah, $400 million, nearly, somewhere between 350 and 400. Now, I was being acquired during, at the end of that period. So some of those proposals I wrote, but weren't awarded until after I, was acquired. So I'm counting those because I wrote the proposals. My team did. So, it was once you learn how to play the game, really learn how to play the game, it truly becomes a level of effort gig. It really does. If you put the effort into it, your probability of success is staggering. For example, my very first prime contract that I won, it was worth $15 million, made me a multimillionaire. I had about a 30% profit margin off of that. So I pocketed about $5 million in profit off of it. And my probability of winning it, 1 in 7. 1 in 7. So it's the best industry in the world. You just got to overcome the fear, and you got to be willing to learn about this much new information. And then once you do that, then it becomes a numbers game. If you put the numbers into it, you're going to win. So it's like buying a lottery ticket. And this is what your lottery ticket costs. Your lottery ticket doesn't cost that much money. It costs effort. If you spend about 2 to 3 months of your life writing a massive proposal, for a massive contract, and you submit it, you're going to have somewhere, I would say on average of about, 1 in 8, probability of winning. I have been on very, very, very few large prime contracts as a small business where I had a bid field over 15. I think I had one that was up to 15. And half the bidders, when you're bidding in small business set asides, half those bidders, man, they don't even know what the hell they're doing. You know what I mean? It's like, so they're not even really competitors. So even if you do have a bid field of 15, only half of them are real.
That's a big deal, because that's a perception thing. Tons of bidders, but the reality is most of them, well, I think you just said half, they don't even qualify.
Yeah, they qualify, but they don't know how to submit a compliant bid because they don't know. Yeah, they don't know how to do it. And I would say that's and trust me, the government will never ever collect data on this because they don't want people to know. But I would say about half of the small business bidders, small businesses, they don't even know how to submit a compliant proposal. So, half of the people who are bidding, they're not even in competition, because their proposals are going to be received and immediately, filed in this circular folder file system called the trash can, because they're not compliant, because they haven't even come close to learning the necessary knowledge that they need in order to be able to submit a compliant proposal.
Oh my gosh, there's a couple of different things going on in my mind. Well, first off, that knowledge to submit a proposal, I want to put a pin in that, and then go back to the other part. The fact that that 50% is being rejected because they don't meet the requirements for the proposal, also that speaks to the positives. That's the opportunity of government.
That's the opportunity. Yeah, I know.
Because if you get those, and it's
right.
and what you say, like, it's listed, it's public information. The customer tells you exactly what to give them, and now it's just on you to give it to them. Or
that's right. You know what I mean? And I will say this: I could go out right this very second, and I could randomly select 100 small government contracting businesses, 100. And I guarantee you 95 of them will not even know how their proposals are really scored. They don't know. They think, and I'm going to give you the perfect example. This is the example that I always use. Let's just say you're an IT company and you want to do cybersecurity work, and you're really good at it, and you see this request for proposal that comes out and it says, "Oh my goodness, this is a cybersecurity request for proposal. We know how to do cybersecurity. Let's respond. Let's tell them how great we are at doing cybersecurity." And, they assume that their cybersecurity abilities and knowledge is worth 95% of their proposal score. Kind of makes sense if you think about it. But that's not how the government thinks. And the government tells you how they think, and they're going to tell you, and they tell you how they score your proposal, but nobody cares to research that and learn it. So I will give you this. Your cybersecurity solution will be worth more than any other section. But this is how the government thinks. They think like, yeah, we like your solution, but how do we know we're going to be able to get that same quality product or service from you day in and day out with every single one of your deliverables? We want to see your quality management plan. And this isn't just a solution. This is a contract. You got to manage it. You have subs, you have employees, you have contract deliverables. We want to see your management plan. And while we're talking about management, how are you even going to transition this contract? How are you going to go from day one of your contract award and completely go from not having any employees on site, doing none of the mission, to doing 100% of the mission with 100% of the employees during a 30-day transition period? We want to see your transition plan. And while we're at it, how are you going to staff these people? We want to see your staffing plan. So every single time the government asks for something additional, what they're doing is they're diluting the value of your solution. So even though your solution is maybe worth 20 to 25% of your overall score, your quality management plan that nobody thinks about, hell, it's worth 10 to 15%. And nobody ever says, you know what? Hey, we're ISO 9001. We're going to rock the quality management plan piece of it. Nobody ever makes a bid decision, because of their ISO certification, but they should. And the reason why is because the vast majority of that proposal are standard sections. And if you get corporate credentials like ISO 9001 Quality Management System, which is a management system which helps you write your management plan, you got ISO 27001 Information Security that's going to knock out your information security plan. You've got risk management, which is literally half of your proposal score. Nobody knows that. But guess what? There's ISO 31000 risk management system certification out there. So you have all these different corporate credentials that nail about 70% of your proposal. So, that maxes out, proof points out the wazoo. Because, you've got your competitors going out there when they're writing their management plan or their risk management plan, they say, we're really, 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 really good at, managing risks. Well, hey, that's pretty good. There's 4 or 5 reallys in there. We're probably going to come up with 7 or 8 reallys. Come on, that's not how it works. You got to have proof points. Prove to me that you're good at risk management. Yeah, well, then you say we have been audited by an accredited third party and been found fully compliant with the globally accepted ISO 31000 risk management best practices. Like, that's irrefutable. You've got the leading organization in the world, ISO and the ISO standards, the globally accepted best practices, and you've been audited and found by an accredited body and found compliant with them. That you don't get, you don't get any better proof points than that. So everything that you say is a proof point. It lowers your risk. Like, hey, wow, they're believable. They got these credentials. So you can go out there and get corporate credentials that will just knock the ball out of the park for 70% of your proposal. And then you know what you do? You go to these big partners like Deloitte, like Northrop Grumman, like General Dynamics IT, and you go to them and say, like, look, we're crushing on our 70%. We got these corporate credentials, we got this, we got that, we got proof points out the wazoo. We're rock solid. This is a slam dunk, especially if we bring you on board to help us with the solution, because that's what they want to do. These big companies, you're the prime contractor on these small business set-aside bids. They can't write the management section. They can't write the quality management section because that's on you. You're the prime. You're the one who's taking care of all of that. You're the one who's responsible for implementing and enforcing it. So what they can do is the stuff that they want to do, the solution piece of it. Why? Because there's higher rates associated with doing the solution. They're going to have maybe the more senior cybersecurity people or something like that. So they'll make higher rates with fewer people. And they've got these solutions that are on the shelf with past performances that back it up to prove that they could implement it. So you're using their past performances as part of your proposal. So that, people always ask me, say, Randy, what's the secret sauce? Because like I said, I've won a few bucks in this industry, and that's the secret sauce. I just gave it to you. You go out there as a small business, you swing big because that's how you make money. Nobody, I've yet to meet a wealthy small business owner who did it by winning onesies and twosies, little things. You got to grow by a step function. You got to win a $20 million contract. You got to win a $15 million. You got to win a $40 million, because that's where the money is. So you bid big. You get corporate credentials to crush what I call the standard sections of a proposal, which is roughly 50 to 70% of every single proposal, standard section. And corporate credentials give you that ability to connect the dots to show all the value and proof points that you need in order to really max out your score there. And then what you do is you partner really well. And you partner really well. You have someone like a Northrop Grumman come in and they're writing your solution. You're using their past performances. They're helping you recruit people. And it's the winning recipe. That's it. And I summarized it in about 2 minutes.
I would like to. Well, you and I have been talking for 3 years, right? So I already have my mind already has momentum going in this direction. But I'd like to. You said, I believe you said no secret, or I'm not sure how to say that. Oh my gosh, would you agree? Would you say that swinging for the moon, going for the big ones, it's that could be the secret, and it's not so much a secret, it's just counterintuitive. And I remember it being counterintuitive when I first joined Government Contracting Academy. Like, safe and cautious seemed like the intuitive choice, and that's not what this is. That is not the best. You get stuck in the mud for infinity.
Well, yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way. I was I was a disabled veteran, so my company was a service disabled veteran owned small business, and I thought to myself, hey, the Veteran Administration, they really hook up their SDVOSBs. The Veteran Administration, they really help their service disabled veteran owned small businesses. I'm going to focus on the VA, and I did, and I bid on something that I thought I could do. Like, wow, this is about a 6-person, project management support services effort. I can do that, and so I bid on it. Well, so did 51 of my closest buddies. There were like 52 bidders. I had less than a 2% chance of winning this tiny little contract. And the company who won it, they ended up doing it at a loss, meaning like they actually lost money on that contract, because that's the only way you win when there's 52 bidders. That's the only way you can differentiate yourself. Why? It's so small that anybody can do it, so risk isn't that big of an issue. It's a generic service offering, project management. Anybody can basically do that. So the question is how do you differentiate yourself? Price. And if price is the only way that you can differentiate yourself, I guarantee you that there's going to be a crazy ass company out there that's willing to do it at a loss, either knowingly or unknowingly. And most of the time it's unknowingly. They think that they're going to, they're making money on that price because they don't know how to price it properly. So they're ignorantly underpricing what it will really cost them to do it. And they end up losing money on it. So in my opinion, you're talking about counterintuitive. The VA is probably the worst agency for service disabled veteran-owned small businesses, because I would suspect that most of the service disabled veteran-owned small businesses who are on contract are either doing it at cost or not making any money, or or losing money. So that's talking about. So let's continue on with the counterintuitive piece of this thing. So you either can have a 1 in 52 chance of winning something that's not going to make you any money at all, or you can have something like a 1 in 5, a 1 in 6, a 1 in 7 chance, maybe a 1 in 10 chance of becoming a multimillionaire off of that single award. So you can't win enough contracts, these tiny little ones, making this much profit, to become wealthy. I liken it to you can either sell lemonade at a lemonade stand. If you want to do that, you're going to be able to buy a bicycle at the end of the summer, or you can sell lemonade franchises. That's the only way you're going to make money, real money, accumulate wealth off of lemonade. You can't do it. You can't sell, 50-cent cups of lemonade, and that's what small businesses do. They go after these tiny little prime contracts. It's like selling a 50-cent cup of lemonade. You got to step up and you say, I need to launch a lemonade franchise. That's the only way you're gonna make real money. And your competition is so much less. Your expected value, everything that you should do in this industry when it comes to bidding should be done on your expected return on investment. And so let's, now I want to turn into a math geek. So what does ROI, return on investment, really means? Return on investment is your expected value. And your expected value of a win is your probability of winning it times the value of it. Now, if you've got a 1 in 52% chance, a 1 in 52 chance of winning, well, you've got less than a 2% probability. And if it's a small contract, well, your payoff is very, very, very low. So your expected value of that VA bid is like nothing. It's pennies. So now you got to figure how much effort did you put into winning it. So your return on your investment to win it is like nothing. Now, if you compare that to I'm going to bid on a $20 million contract, believe it or not, the effort between a tiny bid and a big bid is not that much of a difference. So your return on investment is tremendously higher because your probability actually increases because you got fewer bidders, and your payoff is massive. It's millions. So this is, again, this is the ultimate and counterintuitive there, Jonathan. I have this rule I call 1 + 1 = 11. The effort it takes you to bid on one $1 million bid plus another $1 million bid is the same amount of effort that it would take you to bid on one $11 million opportunity. So you can either put that same effort into pursuing something that's 11 million in size versus two $1 million opportunities. Now, one's going to have a hell of a lot more payoff than the other. So that's the ultimate and counterintuitive, but that's the reality.
Oh my gosh. I was active listening, but in the process there I had 10
You were
good topics.
daydreaming. Come on, let's be honest with yourself. You drifted off. Hell, I heard you snoring.
You know what? I'm going to step out of the host seat and step into the chief marketing officer, whatever we called it, seat. This is a big deal. I think this is how I will lead with our promotions going forward. Speaking to that $40 million bid, not a $40,000 or $40 million proposal. I will speak to that. I'm going to lead with this counterintuitive part. Why? Because, well, on the psychological level, or just real quick, but it shows how awesome it could be. It starts by painting that picture. This is what your life could be like. Right. Yeah. Plus, it's a differentiator from everybody else that's not thinking.
Well, you know what? And you've got a point there talking about differentiation. That's how I've differentiated Government Contracting Academy, because there's a handful of companies and people out there, and they're helping people in government contracting as well. But that's what they're doing. They're helping them with the side gigs, and for example, they're teaching them how to be resellers for small ticket items, how to get their company listed in a GSA catalog. That's small ball. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you a perfect example. Somebody needs to have printed envelopes, with their return address on it or something. They'll release that, and it'll be a $15,000 gig. And so somebody will be really clever, and they'll find a printing service that'll do it really cheap. And so they'll say, okay, I can get them. I can buy them from this company, and I'll sell them to the government, and I'll mark it up by 3% or 4%. So I'll make 4% profit off of it. Now this is a $15,000 gig worth $15,000 worth of envelopes. So they'll make 4% off of $15,000. It's like, and they'll take it'll take months of effort to do that. I'm thinking, like, why? You know what I mean? The government contracting industry is not set up for a side hustle where you're allegedly getting spending cash every week from it. That's just not how it's done. It is optimal to play the lottery, the wealth accumulation lottery game. It is perfect for that. So these companies and these people who seek their help, I have no idea why they do that, because this is probably one of the worst market spaces for side hustles. And the reason why I say that is because the government is slow moving. The amount of work that you put into something isn't going to pay off, for months. So when it does pay off, hell, it should pay off big time, not 4% off of $15,000, because again, the fixed costs that you have in writing a proposal, it's, it's not much difference between doing it for a $40,000 one and a $40 million one. Again, that rule of 1 + 1 = 11. The level of effort you put on one $1 million bid plus another $1 million bid is the same as you'd be putting into an $11 million bid.
Oh, we just lost your camera again.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No worries. So I barked up the state procurement tree for a little bit, and I believe it was Apex here I was working with in Minnesota. I attended a few conferences at Camp Ripley. It was awesome. Crazy supportive. I was blown away by how helpful these government employees are. I'm not sure how to describe it, but how helpful these dedicated people to whatever these people that are dedicated to help build up government contracts. Is very similar to our spiel. Uh, Observation. This
Mhm.
$40 million point, this swinging big point, did not come up. Like these super crazy helpful people, I have nothing but good things to say about them. Did not provide the strategy that you're prescribing right now. They did the exact opposite, 180. They were prescribing the little ones, the play it safe and cautious
Yeah.
and whatnot. So if that sample set applies to the total population, the government is not preaching swing big. They're preaching swing small, which
Oh yeah. Well, well, first of
split
all, the
safe,
people in the
right?
government, they don't know a damn thing about entrepreneurship, and that's not their fault because they're not entrepreneurs. They're in the government. They're government employees, and so I tell people that if you go to the government, because there's a lot of government programs out there,
Awesome.
that are
Yeah.
designed to help you, which is great. You
Yeah.
should feel giddy that there's small business liaison offices for every single major
Holy
organization out
cow.
there that
Yes,
helps
sir.
small businesses. You should feel giddy about that. However, you also got to be knowledgeable and aware about what perspective that they're trying to help you from. You are talking about somebody who's with a government's perspective, and they're looking out for what's best for the government, not always what's best for you. Think about that. That's why they want these small businesses to go after these tiny little ones, because they don't want a tiny business to go after a big contract where the government has risk. Think about that. If you're a small business, small businesses are inherently risky. I'll be the first to admit that. My very first prime contract, I was about 15, 20 minutes away of not being able to pay my people. I was about that close to not being able to make payroll one time, because the government was very slow in paying me my invoices, my submitted invoices, and it's my fault. I didn't grease the skids. I didn't make sure that everything was set up. Talking about a hard learned lesson, I learned that lesson a very hard way. Because I joke about this. God, I remember it like it was yesterday, Jonathan. I
Trauma.
was literally in a fetal position behind my desk, whimpering when I got the phone call that the money had arrived. You,
Oh my
you know
God.
what I mean? It's like, oh my God, I'm going to make payroll. Like, whew. So that's how close I came. That's how, because if you can't pay your people, everything starts to crumble at that point. Yeah. So, but there's risk, and hey, I thought I was doing everything right, and I thought I was low risk, but in fact, I'm a small business. I don't have the resources that a Northrop Grumman does. Northrop Grumman, if the government's slow paying them on their invoices, they don't have any problem. They got all kinds of cash reserves. If they don't, they can go to a bank. He's not going to loan money to Northrop Grumman. You know what I mean? To get through a payroll cycle. Now, not too many people are going to loan money to Randall Wimmer, who hasn't shown any income yet, but seems to be hemorrhaging cash every 15 days, something called payroll. They're like, man, like we're not going to give you any money. You just seem to be like bleeding, hemorrhaging cash, but not ever making any. It's like, so we are risky. So the government, they're not going to intentionally say, hey, we want you small business to go out there and bid on that $20 million contract. But as an entrepreneur, that's exactly what I'm going to tell you to do, because you won't be able to pay your bills unless, by going after those $15,000, $20,000, efforts. That may be the best thing for the government, but it's not the best thing for you right now, because that's unsustainable. You can't feed your family on, pursuing and winning those kind of bid opportunities. So I'm going to tell you to swing big. Because here's the other thing. What if you don't win the contract? What if you don't win? You just learned something, because you're gonna request a debrief. You're gonna ask why you didn't win, and they're gonna tell you why you didn't win. And now you're gonna take that knowledge of why you didn't win, and you're gonna improve those parts of your proposal for your next bid. And you bid again. And what happens if you don't win? Nothing. Nothing. You go in there and you get another debrief, and you get some more information, and then your next proposal is even better. This is not like baseball where you got 3 strikes and you're out. if you do this, if you pursue government contracting the way I propose that you do it, that means you keep your day job, you keep the you keep a paycheck coming in so you can take care of your family, and you just literally bleed through the eyes launching your company on your time at night for your family. Work 8 hours a day for your company, for the company that's hired you. You got to do that, and that's the right thing to do. But for the rest of the day, you know, you bleed through the eyes working around the clock for your family and your family's future. And you launch a company, and those bid and proposal efforts that you do. You know what they cost you? Oh, I don't know, maybe maybe $100, $200 for binders. That's it. You know what I mean? Binders and printer paper. That's it. That's what it costs you from a financial standpoint to bid on a contract. I always refer, like I said, I've won over 350, nearly $400 million in small business set asides, and I always refer back to that first one because that was the first one that got the snowball going. And I had to go out. I had to buy 8 1.5-inch binders. 8, because they wanted 1 original and 7 copies of it. And then I could have shipped it to them, but the shipping cost was more than the gas. So I drove my car down, and this was about an hour and a half away from where I lived, maybe 2 hours away. And now this is a little dangerous. I don't encourage anybody doing this, but I had pulled a few all-nighters writing that proposal, trying to make it as best as I could, provide the best proposal I could. And I remember driving down there, and I was struggling staying awake. And I got there before the office opened, because I wanted to be. You either want to be the first or the last to drop off your proposal, because you leave an imprint. If you're the first, or you're the person who came in at last, they kind of tend to remember you better. I wanted to be the first, so I'm down there, and I remember sleeping in my car for about 40 minutes before they actually opened, and the office did, and I went in there with my stack of binders. Again, I'm bleeding through the eyes. I'm so damn tired. I'm like, and after I dropped it off, I went back into the car. I didn't want them to see me asleep in the car, so I moved into a different area, into another parking lot, and I slept for a few hours before I drove back home. That's how I submitted my very first proposal. But you know what though? I was talking not winning proposal, first prime contract winning proposal. The ones that I'd submitted beforehand, I had bled through the eyes just as much as I did for that one. No more, no less, because that was the cost of the lottery ticket, and that was probably the fourth. I think it was about the 4th lottery ticket that I'd bought. And when I say lottery ticket, I'm talking about prime contract proposals that submitted. The one that I won was probably number 4. I can remember 2 of, I'm getting older now, so I remember 2, definitely 2, and I think that there was a third losing one before I hit pay dirt with the 4th one. But that's the game you play. You know what I mean? You swing big, and there's no cost to losing. Only to your ego. I'm like, damn, I lost that, but I learned a lot from it. Like, man, they didn't like the way I wrote my management section at all. So you rewrite it, and you make it better. You give them, what you think they want the next time.
Oh my gosh. Kind of swinging from the hip here a little bit. So my spiel, we are giving away, Randall Wimmer and Jonathan Geyer, we are giving away everything Americans need to start the government contracting business now. In terms of this tribal knowledge, the lessons that you learned, I believe you said it took 8 years to figure something. You're giving that away for free. You're giving that 8 years, that lesson that took you 8 years to earn. You're giving that away for free, right?
The strategy, and here's the other strategy that is. One, without corporate credentials, you can't differentiate yourself from your competition.
Oh, that's where I was going with that. Yes.
Yeah. So you can't differentiate yourself. So there's right now, I think, there's hundreds of thousands of companies that are registered in SAM.gov. There are, I think 140,000 companies, small businesses that are registered with the SBA Dynamic Small Business Database, registered to receive, prime contracts. So there's 140,000 companies, small businesses. So when you launch your company has a blank resume, 100% blank. Your company has not done a damn thing. Now you have. You may be the most impressive person in the world, but your company that's competing for the contracts, it's got no past performances. It has no references. It has no credentials. It has no qualifications. It's got nothing. So I tell people that if you look at the government's low financial, barrier to entry, because all it takes is basically a business license and a printer and binders if they want hard copies. Nowadays they seem to mostly want them uploaded digitally, so it doesn't even cost you that. So the cost to bid on these $1 million contracts is trivial. We're talking about $100. Let's say $100. It's trivial. What you should be doing is you should be thinking of it as like, oh wow, I'm going to take something that's going to cost me $100. I'm going to become a decamillionaire from it. Don't think of it that way, because that's kind of naive to think like, oh, it's only going to cost me a few $100 and become a decamillionaire. That's, like I said, that's a naive way to think of it. That they're going to give you a contract when your company has nothing going on for it. What you should be thinking about is because this industry is so inexpensive to get started on, I should be taking some of that money that I would be investing in to get started in other industries to give myself an advantage over 99% of my competitors. And that's with ISO certification. Less than 1% of US companies have a single ISO credential. If you have two, you're in the top 0.1%. So with this corporate credentials, that screams of corporate maturity. Your company, is extremely mature if you have these ISO credentials. They're like college degrees for your company. So now that you've got this great news story, that you've got these corporate credentials, there's another thing that you can do to differentiate your company. First off, when you're trying to get market penetration, the best way to do that is through subcontracting. You got to convince a big business to bring you on their bid team when they're bidding. Because if you help them bid and they win, then that bid teaming agreement becomes a subcontract. So why are they even talking to you? Well, because of the small business set aside program. They are required on these large bids to subcontract 29.43% of the value of that contract to small businesses. And they break down that 29.43% into various, the various specific set of sizes, like women-owned small businesses, minority-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, and hub zones. So they break it down even further. Now, they're supposed to find qualified companies in each one of these categories and give a big chunk of it too. Now, here's the reality. This is the trick. Go to the SBA and look up all the Small Business Administration scorecards for each federal government agency, and they will tell you how well that they did meeting their goals. About half of them failed to meet their small business set-aside goals for subcontracting. What does that mean? They can't find enough of specific types of set-asides to give the full earmark to. They are literally leaving billions of dollars in small business subcontracting earmarks on the table because these bidders can't find enough qualified, low risk. When I say qualified, translate that to mean low risk, set aside companies. So, for example, this is what I see all the time, and I'll talk fast since I know we're kind of pressing up against our time, but this is a valuable point. A lot of these service disabled veteran-owned small businesses, these are from veterans who are coming from the military and they were at the pointy end of the spear. They were doing something very operational, very specific, very, very military centric. And what do they want to do? Well, they want to continue doing what they feel like they know how to do. And they do that. Well, just like everybody else who's leaving the military does. And they're fishing off the pier. And when I say fishing off the pier, if you've ever gone to a fishing pier, there's hundreds of people on the pier, they're each trying to get to the edge so they can drop their line over. So you can either fish with 100 of your closest friends and try to get that one fish that's down there to bite your hook rather than the other 100. Or what you can do is you can go to a fishing hole where there's nobody. And that's what I recommend. So why do you want to do something if you're a service disabled vet? coming out of the military. Why do you want to fish off the same pier as all the other service disabled vets, in DOD, when you could move over to HHS, Health and Human Services? They aren't even close to making their small business set aside goals for SDVOSBs. Not even close. So why do you want to compete with a gazillion SDVOSBs when you go over there, they can't find enough of them? So now that you are a set aside category, like an SDVOSB, here's the other thing. If you're not a service disabled vet, if you're not a woman, or if you're not a minority, don't break out in a cold sweat, because you can always become a hub zone, historically underutilized business zone. And that's another topic for another time, but it's very doable. And that's the best one, because there's fewer hub zones than the other types of companies. So become a hub zone, get these corporate credentials, and then target agencies that can't meet their small business set aside goals for hub zones. They can't find enough of them. So not only are you something that they can't find enough of, you've got these ISO certifications that put you in the top 1 or top 0.1 percentile of that group. There's the secret sauce. I wish I could make it sound more complicated, more complex, where it would make me seem smarter, but it literally is that simple. It literally is that simple. So once you've got that sexy story, hey, I'm a type of company that you need because of the small business set aside program. I've got these corporate credentials, that prove that I'm a low risk one of these companies, and I'm targeting, agencies where they can't find enough of me. Then what you have to do is you got to do something I call massive outreach. You've got to let God and country know about you, because you're a good news story for a lot of people. You got to get it out there. Prince Charming is not going to come knocking on your door to see if that glass slipper fits you. You got to go out there and you got to say, hey, I lost a glass slipper last night. You got to promote that. You got to send out mass emails saying that, and there's ways to do that. I can teach you how to put that good news story about your company in front of tens of thousands of business development executives. It's not hard to do, and that's the story that you got to tell, but you got to tell it tens of thousands of times. Why? Because not everybody's going to need you right then and there. And, you got to play the numbers game. So I get, a lot of people join Government Contracting Academy and they get flustered and say, hey, Randy, I did every single thing that you said and it's still not paying off for me. Why? And I'm thinking well, how many people did you reach out to last week? 3. I'm thinking okay, by the time you get to about 23,000 and you don't have contracts and subcontracts and teaming agreements coming, then come talk to me. Until you hit that 23,000, don't even talk to me. But there's ways that you can automate that to do it really fast, really easy, and it's happening in the background. And then, so that's the real secret sauce is to get subcontracts.
Oh my gosh, and I'm going to ambush you with this here in our last minute and a half. I like the number 3. What do you think? What would you say the 3 biggest points for somebody that knows nothing from 0 to 1? That's what I'm picturing here. Somebody that knows nothing to start to bid on their first contract, win or lose, doesn't really matter. What are the 3 points? 3 Randall Wimmer suggestions.
3 Randall Wimmer suggestions.
Yes,
it wouldn't be for bidding on a contract. It would be getting on a bid team to get a set.
Oh, good call.
That's how you do that. Okay, so number 1, I would say you got to differentiate your company from the 99% of the other companies out there who are trying to do the same thing. And you do that through corporate credentials. So step number 1, get corporate credentials, make yourself sexy. The second thing that you do is you got to let everybody know how sexy you are. So that's what I call massive outreach. That's what I was just talking about. There's ways that you can get on LinkedIn, Sales Navigator. LinkedIn is like crack cocaine for business development executives in our industry. It really is. So you can use LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, or whatever to filter those groups of people, that need small businesses like you.
As a normal person, as a common man, I could use that, right?
Oh, absolutely. So then you do that massive outreach where you are reaching literally thousands, tens of thousands, per month of these business development executives who need to find small businesses just like you. And while you're doing that, while you're doing that outreach, trying to get on bid teams, then you got to learn the industry. You got to learn what's the next step, because otherwise you're going to get caught flat-footed. Because the next thing they're going to ask you and say, okay, what are your pricing? We need to see your price work up. And then you're going to say, well, shit, what the hell is that? So those are the three things you got to do. One, get credentialed up. And when I say credentials, I'm also talking about like HubZone. That's the certification that you can get that's about your company. So get credentialed up, do massive outreach, and then what you do is you got to learn the industry. And if you do that, it becomes a level of effort game. You keep on driving and pushing and pushing. It literally is that simple. It's not hard, it's not easy, but it's that simple. There's a big difference between a marathon is about the simplest thing in the world. All you got to do is just run. The hard part is you got to do it for 26.2 miles. So this is the same thing. This is like running a marathon, but you're going to finish it. All you got to do is just keep moving.
Oh my gosh, we are at time. That was an awesome way to. Figured I pounced on you with that question. Super cool. Yeah. I would like to give a call out to Laura Torbett, who is a fan of our shows, and she's been super supportive since you and I started doing this. She put a comment on. This was a long time ago, so I'm reading it out of context. Sounds like something I'm dealing with, and I believe, oh my gosh, it was in the earlier part of this presentation. Super cool, super cool. Well, Randy, this is it. This is the end of Series 4. Which let's build from that. And real quick, we're over time here, but let's describe what we're doing next week. I haven't preached about that yet within this series.
Well, I think we should reboot. You know what I mean? Because even if you got it the first time, it takes a little while to get this in. Like I said, there's about this much knowledge that separates this industry from the other industries out there. But it's this little bit of delta is the difference between becoming a decamillionaire and being too scared to try. And so that's I say we reboot and we go back and we start this 4-part series again. And then I say we start out with, why is government contracting so much better than the other industries for first-time entrepreneurs? And then from there we start building off of it until we ultimately wrap that series up, and then we either do it again or we start a different series, like how do you write proposals, or how do you get subcontracting, or how do you get these ISO credentials, or whatever it is. But I think to kind of reinforce a baseline for everybody, I say we redo this 4-part series again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I concur. I say we do this until we fix the problem, this national level problem. Like, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. We're willing.
Well, here's Jonathan, when the new administration kicks in, there's going to be turmoil, and starting 2025, because one is we got a new administration. That administration feels like they have a mandate to increase the efficiency of the federal government. That means change, and they have control over both houses of Congress. It's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
Turmoil is going to happen in the federal government, market space, and turmoil is the best thing in the world for small businesses, but most small businesses won't see it. So that will scare even more people away from bidding, when in fact the opportunities has just tremendously improved because of that turmoil. Turmoil always favors small businesses, and there's lots of reasons why. There's their realignment with budgets. There's and small businesses, they can do, for the most part, about 80% of the services small businesses can do it just as well as any big businesses, but they're not given the opportunity until the government is forced to reduce their budget. If you're working with General Dynamics IT and it's costing you $10 million, a year, and you got a 20% budget hit, in order to keep General Dynamics IT on the payroll, you either got to reduce your mission requirements by 20%, or you got to go and you got to give it to a small business who can do 100% of that mission requirement for 80% of the cost. And that's what I think is going to happen next year. It's that there's going to be budget realignment. So there's going to be winners and losers. The winners have more money to spend. That helps everybody out. But when they have less money to spend, that helps small businesses out.
Oh my gosh, Laura, I can see her comments over here. She just asked for any examples, and this was about 30 seconds ago. I don't remember specifically what you were saying. Maybe it's in the realignment of the government.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about examples?
Yeah, she asked for examples, a little more specific.
Okay. Well, here's the
easy as that.
example. This is what I think is going to be happening next year in 2025. Every single time that you eliminate a federal government employee, that body doesn't go away.
Oh my gosh, good call.
What happens is that just simply gets converted to a contractor. So every single time that they're going to fire a government employee, 9 times out of 10, all they're going to do is convert that into a government contracting position. So these government positions are going to be coming into contractor positions. That's the first opportunity, and that's going to happen in wide scale, I think. The second thing is that when you combine multiple contracts together into new contracts, that really helps out everybody, because right now the incumbent, if you have a contract and it doesn't change at all, and you presently have it, when it's recompeted again, you have a 70% chance of winning it. Why? Because you know everything about it. You have zero risk, zero transition risk, all that kind of stuff. And so that means that everybody else is bidding on it. They have a combined 30% chance of winning it. Combined 30%. And the incumbent has 70%. But what happens if you have 5 contracts that are all going to be chopped up and combined into 3 new ones? What that means is, my camera's changed back.
It looks good. I like this camera. It's a great angle.
So what that means is there's no real incumbents. So that means all the bidders are going to have an equal chance of winning, that 100%, not 30% combined, but 100%. So everybody's probability of winning significantly improves. So that's another opportunity. And then the other opportunity is when they have budget cuts and they need to assume a little bit more risk to go with the lower cost small businesses. Until there's a budget cut, there's no compelling reason for the government to be willing to accept more performance risks. None at all. Okay. It's like, if I got a $10 million budget every single year, and that's what it costs me to go with, Northrop Grumman or General Dynamics or IBM, why would I say no? No, I want to accept more risk. I want to increase I want to make my job more difficult as the program manager on the government side. Nobody does that. It's not until somebody says like, "Hey, Randy, you no longer have $10 million to do this, to support your mission. You only got $8 million. So you can either have 80, so only support 80% of your mission, with these big companies with no risk, or have 100% of your mission, supported at 80% of the cost, but you got to assume the risk of going with a small business." Until they're faced with something like that, there's no reason at all that the government is going to consider changing a big company contract and making it a small business set aside.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Laura said, thank you for that answer. Exclamation point. We are well over time.
Yeah.
We made up for starting late. Oh my gosh, this was awesome. I'm declaring this our best episode of the series.
No, I like that.
With all the camera switching.
I like. Oh yeah, that's intentional. I have no idea. It just keeps on switching. I'm sure there's going to be a camera view from the rear here in a minute somehow.
Oh my gosh. Well, this was awesome, Randy. Much appreciated, and I will. I'll package up our next series.
Okay, sounds good. See you then.
Sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.